Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I'm a twin flame channel and Western astrologer, and this is a video about the full moon in Cancer taking place on December 26th at 7:32 p.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local time. This will be the lunar update for the Twin Flame Collective. Consider it a part two to the part one for the Lightworker Collective, published alongside this one. I'm going to give you an overview of the full moon aspects and some general interpretations, but for more specific understanding, please have a listen to that one first and then come back and listen to this. Some quick announcements. At the end of the full moon in Cancer Lightworker energy update, I did provide something that I call first look, which is where I give my first impression of the upcoming lunation, the new moon in Capricorn, and it's a big one. So definitely have a listen to that if you're curious where the energy goes from here. And the calendar for January is open. If you would like to book a reading, now is the right time to do so. I definitely have some availability that first week of January, and it is, I think, the second, third, and fourth, as well as the following week on the 9th, 10th, and 11th. You can definitely book some time with me. Link is below this video at kmoonastro.com. I would love to chat with you if you're feeling guided to book a reading. Let's get into this lunation's energy. Be a lot of fun to chat about it. Couple of things to understand about this is that this energy is going to be, you're going to feel potentially uh, a compulsion to take an action in relationship, but this is actually a good time for self-reflection and self-improvement. Lots of ability to see things from an alternative perspective in this energy and detach from forcing things to go our way or my way. And there's a few relationship surprises, definitely some unpredictability with Juno and Venus, both in conversation with Uranus. So expect the unexpected, I guess is the best way to put this. I go into much greater detail in the Lightworker energy update. But here we have the energy I read as divine feminine energy, that is Juno, preparing to go retrograde at this time. And I did a full breakdown of what to expect during Juno retrograde and the last lunar update for Twin Flames. So definitely have a listen for that, especially if your connection is feeling a little different these days. And Juno retrograde is square Mercury conjunct Mars in Sagittarius. So here they are, Mercury retrograde conjunct Mars, and there's that 90-degree angle that can create some tension. And with this, there can be some inconvenient truths surfacing, but also a little bit of challenge in getting to the bottom of things because we have an opposition to Neptune as well. And that can make things unclear. It can fog up the details and connection. The direction of connection can also be a bit foggy because of Juno preparing to go retrograde as well. So this can be a sense of things feeling really up in the air, like a conversation really needs to be had, but also recognizing, here's the thing. It's like, how can I describe this? It's this sense of feeling like you can't make another move without the other person or hearing from the other person. But this energy really calls out the falsehood in that type of thinking. It really shows us or calls us out in that thinking that the only choice we have is to respond, when actually we also have the choice to initiate, to ask, to be curious. Now, I'm going to be honest, in this energy, you could be curious, but I don't know that you're going to get any answers that are really clear. Clarity's coming, but it ain't now. And I map out the timeline for this inside the Lightworker energy update. So if you want to have a listen for that full timeline, definitely have a listen to that. But the short story, we're looking at least Mercury going direct. Best time is going to be Mercury getting out of Sagittarius and fully into Capricorn sometime after the 15th ish of next month. That's when all of the pieces of information that needed to have arrived to create clarity will have surfaced. There's still a lot percolating between now and then. Okay. So trying to get answers now is like recognizing, like, if you've ever made a souffle, you know you can't keep opening the oven and checking if it's ready. You really have to just trust the timing, because if you keep opening the oven, the souffle will fall. And so this is that kind of thing where it's like you trying to get answers, but it's like it's not time, it's not ready. They'll come, just not yet. There's lots to surface in a methodical kind of manner over the full course of this retrograde, especially in the divine feminine energetic fields. Um, okay. Because of Juno's movement with Mars here, and you and also, this is a new moon in Cancer, which can have us feeling a bit emotional. I'm going to say it suggests some level of triggers, um, especially for those who are in or identifying themselves as in some sort of union. But it's also a period of quiet reflection between you and your counterpart as you contemplate next steps in home. Cancer deals with home and family, how you want to connect in 2024. Convos about your personal goals or joint goals may really surface for discussion without having a lot of certainty or clarity about what's next, but just some general kind of like, I'm thinking about this type of energies. Great time to just stay open, stay curious about, just where each other's at, what's been on your mind, what's possible as you look at the closing out of this year. Okay. It can be a time of exploration and possibility as long as decisions aren't forced or required. And sometimes I've noticed, at least in my, conversations with friends and my own counterpart, and even with family, sometimes separating the time for exploration from the time for decision can really help bring about better quality decisions. And what I mean by that is saying, all right, let's just have an exploratory conversation. No decisions will get made today. Let's just hear each other out. Let me hear what you need. Let me hear what you want. And then take some time to digest what the other person said before you go into a decision making process about what's next. The reason I bring this up is because Juno in Virgo's a sign that deals with decision making and details, but she's about to go retrograde. The tool with which we make our decisions, Mercury, is already retrograde. It will go direct. So, decisions undertaken during the Mercury retrograde, there may be new information that surfaces once Mercury goes direct. So, this is a great time to explore things without settling on anything in particular. Let the conversation percolate and evolve. Okay. And then you'll be able to make higher quality decisions as you've each digested one another's perspective and just have heard each other out. Okay. Now, if triggered by one another, this is a great time to discover your own personal needs and get to the bottom of why you're bothered. But it's also a really great time to learn about your person. Why do they do the things that they do? It's a great time to get curious rather than presume you know the answer. I had to catch myself up the other day around this before I even looked at this. I was like, oh, that's what that's about. Because I noticed something and I was like, oh, I know exactly why you do this. You do it because of this, and you're trying to annoy me this way, and da 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 da. And I just had a whole story going. Then I had to check myself. Like, I sat down with God, had a conversation with about it, really talked to my guides. I was like, oh, this is me making up a story and thinking I'm right. Okay, Kay, knock it off, girl. You already know. This isn't like you have to be curious. You can't just make up stories about people and then try to fit them into it. So um, and because normally, in the lack of good information, when people make up stories, it tends to never be the kind of story that gives the other person the benefit of the doubt, that sees them in their highest light. It's always some sort of story when we're upset and we lack certain information. We make up a story that tends to truncate, cut off, or undermine connection rather than enhance it. It's our nature to want to self protect in many ways, protect from hurt or more hurt. So if you're triggered, the opportunity here is to just take a beat and use it as an opportunity for self exploration. Where have you not forgiven? Where have you not let go? Where might you be projecting past onto present? What are you actually needing? What need are you trying to get met by forcing clarity when there may not be any? What are the opportunities for curiosity? What can you be curious about? And what else could be true, right? These are the kinds of self exploratory questions that can really be helpful in connection at this full moon in Cancer. So stay open, stay curious. And rather than think we know and build a case, um, it's a great time to just take a beat. Okay. Especially in connection. Now, for those of you who identify in some level of separation, you may find this energy creates a lot of confusion about what's what in the connection. You may also find silence and that things feel a bit unpredictable and unstable. Now, some of this is a function of our friend Juno here preparing to go retrograde and Mercury already being retrograde. You may find that suddenly there's a lack of communication. Again, don't presume you know why. Instead, be with how you feel about it, manage your emotions around it, and be curious about where the other person, what may be going on, but also be curious about what's happening inside of you. I definitely talked about this in the last lunar update for divine counterparts that when Juno goes retrograde, there can be a sense of withdrawal in the connection for those who identify in some level of separation, among other experiences. So definitely check that out if you're noticing some shifts in connection already. Okay. You may also notice because of Uranus's influence um, on Juno, some oddities in communication, or some unusualness around like the way people are showing up and relating, some ways in which you may look and go, they're being weird or not being themselves. They may actually be thinking that about you. Um, and so understand that this is temporary, as people may withdraw at this time, as personal triggers make them very self conscious about what to say. It's also very easy to get offended in this energy or say things we don't mean and accidentally offend someone else. Like I said, this is going to be a great time for self-reflection. Because once Mercury goes direct and makes things a more harmonious aspect to Juno in January, it'll be so much easier to talk through things because not only will you be clear about what you're thinking and feeling and needing, but so will everyone else. So, if you're really curious, kind of about transcending patterns in your connection in 2024, now's a great time to book a reading. I'm over at kmoonastro.com. You've also recognized, like, hey, I'm just really interested in um, being in connection in a new way, or trying to like figure out what I'm going to do in my connection because I've been on the fence for a while. Now's a great time to book a reading, have that conversation. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about Jupiter, the energy I read as divine masculine there. He is fifth degree of Taurus, retrograde, but speaking to this particular full moon in Cancer via the sextile. Um, this is good. Trying the sun as well. It's a great energy. I mean, they're all kind of neutral, but when you put these together, they can harmoniously support one another in certain ways. There's a conversation with Saturn as well in sextile. And so I love Saturn's influence at this time because this is bringing a level of groundedness. It's going to bring expansion that is balanced into our divine masculine energy. Because in this energy, for reasons I described in the light worker energy update, it's going to be very easy to under or overestimate what we can take on and get done and get ourselves into trouble trying to be all things to all people. The inverse is also true. And we can feel really entitled and very owed. With Jupiter speaking here to Lilith, we can feel quite entitled and quite owed uh, in this energy. And that's it, it feels contradictory. Like there's some interior contradictions that need to be worked out where it's like we're expansive, but we also it, feel owed. It's like this sense of like, you know, and I've been guilty of this. Like, when people make like New Year's resolutions, and it's that kind of conversation that's like drunken declarations to never again deal with any exes, or never again take a job, that, has this or that feature, or never again, like these kinds of like contractive, restrictive, hard line, hard rule. I deserve, I'm owed, I'm due, my turn, me. Like that kind of energy where there's just, it can be a little bit not self-centered, but immature, and it's centering in self, right? There's been no real like recognition of what you brought to the situation, how you contributed to the situation's downfall in the first place. You're just writing off everyone and everything blanketly that looks like the old thing, right? No accountability. This is what this can breed. Just a little bit of that in the shadow. In the light, there can just be this kind of like false hero complex a little bit. Well, that's also kind of shadow energy, but this kind of sense of like, in the light, it can be a little bit like feeling ambitious, but biting off more than you can chew. Just a tad, just a tad. Um, like committing before you know all the details and what you really signed up for. And then Mercury deepens retrograde and then goes direct. And you're like, what the heck did I sign up for? Like in your masculine energy, you were like, yeah, let's get it done. Let's do it. But then as things start to get revealed, you're like, wait a minute, what? This isn't what I signed up for. um, so if you have to make any of those kinds of agreements at this time, what I would say is l- let people know, like, uh, yes, and right. This sounds good, but if things change or evolve, I may not be able to follow through. Keep me abreast of the details, and I'm going to do the best I can to make sure I can stick with, like, get you what you need, right? Because when it's like, good example, right? You agree to take somebody to the grocery store, but next thing you know, on the day that they're taking you to the grocery store, you arrive to pick them up and you get there and they're like, yeah, 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 we just need to drop off my mom because the mom is there, pick up my kid because the kid is there. The kid isn't there and needs to get picked up from the babysitter. I need to swing by the post office and then we can go to the grocery store. Now you have yourself a commitment you didn't sign up for, right? And had you known it was going to be all of that, maybe you would have put gas in your car. Maybe you would have pushed your next appointment by an hour later. Maybe you would have said no. Maybe, right? So there's like evolving information. If you got to sign up for things at this time, just make sure you're abreast of how things may evolve and you give yourself the grace to be able to say, if this is all it is, great. But if there's more to it, please let me know because I may need to arrange things accordingly in order to be able to get you what you need, right? So that kind of thing. I'm not saying be a flake, I don't believe in backdooring your way out of stuff, but I also don't believe in adding things to people's plate and then just presuming they're just going to do it for you. Like that doesn't work either. So there's that. Um, uh, let's see. Mhm. Also in shadow, there's a little bit of like blowing up good things due to faulty thinking and conclusions that aren't really based in reality because of Pluto's square Pholus trine Jupiter. Here's Pluto. Mm, that's Pholus is trining Jupiter, but Pluto is square Jupiter. There could just be a little bit of like pessimism, I guess is the right way to put it. Um, so if you're noticing self-sabotage in yourself or someone else, it's a great time to just check in and ask, hey, I'm noticing X. Um, I know that all of everyone's actions tend to always have positive intended outcome. What are you hoping is the outcome? Can I help? Or what am I trying to accomplish here? Is this the best way to do it? That kind of check-in can go a long way. Now, for those in union, um, this energy may express itself as watching yourself or your counterpart get a little stressed out about expectations around the end of the year, new beginnings, around the holidays, and either shut down or implode or deliver a whole bunch of ultimatums. Um, it could also just a tad bit be putting those expectations on others and not really recognizing what they're already dealing with. Um, there can also be a real interior sense of like, I gotta get this right. I gotta get this right. I gotta get this right. So if you notice you're putting extra pressure on yourself, great time to take a step back and say, hey, hun, you know, can we share the load on this? I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Or would you be too disappointed if I prioritized these things and the other things, if they get done, great, but if they don't, they don't. Help me understand what your real priorities are. Great time for that kind of negotiation for those who are identifying in some sort of union, but for those who are identifying in some sort of separation, um, uh, you may find that there, like I said, there's just a little less presence because the divine masculine energy is retrograde. The divine feminine energy will be retrograde. So you may find that vibrationally, if you're in that polaric energy where they're the divine masculine, you're the divine feminine, you may find the divine masculine energy has been in a bit of withdrawal, goes direct on December 30th. So that's, you may see a little bit of shift there. But then she pretty much goes retrograde right after that. Um, if you're in separation, something to watch out for. Don't play tit for tat. They went through a period of reflection and withdrawal. Don't you go, well, I'm going away too then, and I'm not going to talk to you either when you're ready to talk. Like, just don't be petty. That's the only caveat I have here. It'd be easy, given the overlap of their retrogrades, to be petty if you're identifying in some level of separation. To transcend it, just stay open and curious. Yeah. Okay. Um, the spiritual connection may feel a little less intense because in our divine masculine energy, there's a lot of self focus in the way that he's talking to the sun and the way Lilith is talking to him. There's a lot of like, universe is really kind of working overtime to get us to deal with ourselves at the moment. And that's actually a really good thing. It's going to help the connection long term. So, if people need to do that, just don't take it personal. It's really not about you. Okay. It's going to be an exciting year ahead for counterparts. And ultimately, this period of like disjointedness or like this little period of time of like self-reflection or like really kind of dealing with yourself, it's going to reset the connection and give those who feel overwhelmed, overtaken, or compulsed by the connection a bit of breathing room. And those who feel stuck in a loop or a cycle in the connection, a chance to finally break it. It's also going to help those who, if you've been together or in some format of union and things have been plodding along, but there's some growth needed, this is the prelude to a quantum leap, prelude to a catapult forward. So, um, it's a really good time to really utilize this for curiosity, reflection, and where you can just stay open and curious about your other. Okay. All right, guys. If you'd like to book some time with me, I'm over at chemoonastro.com. I'd love to chat with you. And you can book in that first week of January. Gosh, flew by. I've got 30-minute sessions available and then 1 hour sessions available as well. I would love to chat with you about your upcoming year, what to expect in connection, major transits in your chart for love, and anything you'd like to reset in your connection. Now is a great time to reset the energy and the intentions using intention and manifestation. Okay, guys, I love you. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. And I'll see you in 2024. Take great care. Bye for now.